Okay, so have you ever been right in the thick of a big project? Deadlines coming at you left and right.
And suddenly, boom, company-wide email, and it's announcing a major restructuring.
Oh, yeah.
New boss, new team, new software system to learn, the works. Sound familiar?
Ugh. Yeah, I've been there.
It's like the one constant, isn't it? Organizational change. But what if, instead of freaking out every time,
Right.
we could kind of, I don't know, learn to navigate these things like a pro?
I come like a change ninja.
Yes, change ninjas, exactly. So that's what we're diving into today, figuring out how to not just survive change, but actually use it to our advantage.
I like it.
And, our secret weapon in all of this,
Yeah.
understanding this thing called organizational culture.
Yeah, it's huge, isn't it? I mean, it really is like this kind of invisible force that shapes how everything works.
Totally.
From how decisions are made to, like, how teams actually talk to each other.
Right.
Even how people react when someone suggests, like, a new idea.
Like the operating system running in the background.
Yeah. Exactly, the OS of the company, and you wouldn't.
You don't just install a new version without knowing what you're working with.
Right. Exactly, like trying to get the latest software on a system that's like 10-year-old. It's a recipe for disaster.
Exactly.
And it's the same with change, right?
Totally.
If you're trying to implement some big change without understanding that existing culture, it can be messy.
It can get really messy. And that's why, I think one of the things that's always been fascinating to me about this is that you can have a company that's doing all the right things on paper.
Right.
But if the culture isn't there, it all falls apart.
It's like, imagine, okay, trying to do this really flexible, agile project management approach
Okay.
in a company that's like completely stuck in its ways. They love their top-down hierarchy.
Oh, yeah.
Super traditional. And you come in and you're like, all right, everybody, time to be agile. It's going to be a clash.
Total clash, like trying to teach a room full of waltz enthusiasts to break dance.
Exactly.
It's not going to go well.
Total chaos. So that's why the first step is always, always, always figuring out what the culture is really like.
Okay, so how do we do that? Are we like, sneaking around looking for secret handshakes?
I wish.
Right. What are we looking for here?
Well, I mean, there are some pretty good tools and techniques, right? Surveys, interviews, those are always good to kind of gauge, how employees are feeling, get a sense of the general attitude towards change.
Yeah, go straight to the source.
Exactly.
But what about something a little more, I don't know, structured?
Oh, you're in luck. There's this thing called, get ready for it, the Organizational Culture Assessment Instrument,
Okay, hold on a second.
or OCAI for short.
OCAI. That sounds like something out of, like, a sci-fi movie.
Right.
Break it down for us. What is this?
Okay, so basically it helps you figure out what kind of culture you're dealing with.
Okay.
It uses these different dimensions, like how much does the company value stability versus being flexible? Or how much do they focus on, internal stuff versus what's going on outside the company?
Interesting. So you're categorizing the culture. It's like, I remember I took this personality quiz once. They were categorizing people based on colors.
Uh-huh.
And I got sunshine yellow, which I'm pretty sure was their polite way of saying I'm a little bit too enthusiastic sometimes.
But I digress.
So use this OCAI thing, and you discover that the culture is, let's just say, a little resistant to change.
Okay.
What then? What's next?
All right, so that's where you got to find your change agents.
Your what?
Your change agents. Think of them as like your allies on the inside.
Okay.
Those people who are actually excited about the change you're trying to make. They can be, leaders, managers, even just someone who knows everyone.
I'm all connected.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And they can really help champion the change from within, bring other people on board.
So it's all about building that coalition of the willing.
Yeah.
Because I guess if you're trying to navigate a culture that's not so quick to embrace change,
Right.
having those internal advocates can make all the difference in the world.
Huge, huge difference. It's like building a campfire, right? You need those initial sparks to get things going.
It's like you need someone who's going to get in there and like really get that fire going,
Yeah.
But okay, finding your cheerleaders, that's one thing. But then there's the whole like actually managing the change part.
Right.
And it's not like change happens in a vacuum. We've got projects, deadlines, deliverables.
Totally. It's like trying to juggle, I don't know, flaming porches while riding a unicycle.
Yes, exactly. It's a balancing act for sure. And I think you've hit on something really important, which is that organizational change and project management, they're like They're connected at the hip.
They're totally intertwined.
Yeah.
Think of it like a dance, right?
Okay.
You know, you've got two dancers, they're trying to stay in sync.
Okay.
But if one of them like trips or changes the rhythm out of nowhere,
Right.
it throws the whole thing off.
That is such a good analogy
Yeah.
because it really is like that. You're trying to stay in sync, but then something changes and you're like scrambling to adjust. So let's break it down. What are some common ways that this whole like change project tango gets out of step? What are we talking about here?
Well, I mean, you got to think about all the different ways that a company can change, right?
Right.
So you could have a restructuring, right?
Okay.
Where departments are suddenly merging, reporting lines are shifting.
It's like corporate Tetris.
Exactly. Or you could have a change in leadership. New boss comes in with a whole new set of priorities.
Right.
And suddenly the project roadmap that you had, it's out the window.
Gone.
Gone. And then you've got your process overhauls.
Oh, yeah.
You've got budget cuts.
Oh, worse.
And all of these can have a huge ripple effect on your project's scope, your timeline, your resources.
It's like someone keeps changing the music and the tempo while you're trying to learn a choreographed dance, right?
Yeah.
You're just constantly having to adapt, and you're trying not to step on anyone's toes in the process.
And, you know, sometimes those changes, they aren't just subtle shifts.
Right.
Sometimes it's like the whole stage changes around you.
Oh, okay. Give me an example.
Okay, so imagine you are knee-deep in this huge software development project.
Okay.
You're hitting your deadlines.
Right.
Everything is going great, and then, bam, your company announces a merger.
Oh, no.
Right. Talk about a plot twist.
That is a huge plot twist. So, okay, I mean, as a project manager, how do you even begin to navigate that? That's like, building this magnificent sandcastle, and then like a tidal wave just wipes it out.
Right, but the key is to stay flexible.
Okay.
Right? Remember we were talking about agile project management earlier?
Yeah.
Same principles apply here.
Okay.
You got to be adaptable. You got to be willing to change direction if you need to.
So it's less about like rigidly sticking to the original plan and more about being open to course correcting along the way.
Exactly. So going back to that software project example, the first thing you need to do is figure out, is this project even still relevant?
Right.
Right? Does it still fit into the merged company's goals?
Yeah.
You might need to go back and redefine the scope. You might need to look at the resources again.
Totally.
And of course, you've got to communicate with everyone.
Because in times of change, silence is deafening.
Yeah.
And not in like a good way.
Exactly.
Oh.
You've got to keep your stakeholders in the loop, address their concerns, be transparent about what you're doing and why you're doing it.
So they don't feel like they're just along for the ride.
Exactly.
It's like you're building that trust, right?
Right.
So people feel like they're in the loop, even when everything's changing around them. But let's be real for a second. Even when you know change is coming, even when you've got a plan, it can still be kind of unnerving.
Oh, absolutely.
It's like that feeling when you hit update on your phone.
Right.
Like, okay, I'm hoping for cool new features, but part of you is terrified it's going to like erase all your photos.
Right. You're just like, please don't brick my phone.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I feel like it's the same way with organizational change, right?
Yeah.
Because even when you know it's for the best, even when you're excited about it, there's still that element of, oh, I hope I don't get lost in the shuffle.
It's a big deal. And you know what? You've hit on something really important, which is that it's not just about managing logistics.
Right?
It's not just about timelines and budgets and like moving things around on a spreadsheet. You got to think about the people.
The human side of change.
Exactly.
So how do we help people move from that place of like feeling reactive or maybe even like a little bit scared to a place where they feel like, okay, I got this.
You got to give them the tools.
Okay.
You got to give them the strategies to deal with it. And that's where strategic change management comes in.
Okay, I like it. Strategic change management.
And you know what's so cool? A lot of these strategies, they connect right back to those project management principles that we're always talking about.
Oh, I love it when we can connect the dots like that.
Right.
So what are we talking about here? Give me the strategies.
All right. So first and foremost, communication.
Okay.
But I'm not talking about just sending out like a company-wide email.
Right.
That's not enough.
Hey, by the way, everything's different now. Good luck.
Exactly. This has got to be proactive communication.
Okay.
Consistent
Right.
communication. And it has to come from different angles.
So it's less of a one-way announcement and more like a dialogue, right?
Exactly. You have to explain the why.
Okay.
Like, why are we even doing this?
Right.
How is this going to benefit the company? And this is important. How is it going to impact different teams? How is it going to impact individual roles?
Because at the end of the day, we all want to know, okay, but what about me?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And when people understand why something is happening,
Yeah.
how it fits into the bigger picture and how it's going to benefit them, they're much more likely to get on board.
They're not going to fight.
Exactly. Now, another thing that's really, really helpful, pilot programs.
Ooh, pilot programs. Tell me more. I like the sound of this already.
Right.
Yeah.
Think of it as like dipping your toe in the water before you do a cannonball into the pool.
Okay.
You don't want to jump right in.
So instead of rolling it out to the entire company,
Right.
you start small.
Exactly. You test it out, you get some feedback, you figure out what works, what doesn't, you make some tweaks.
It's like a dress rehearsal before the big opening night.
There you go. Exactly. And speaking of rehearsals,
Okay.
remember our change agents.
Yes. Our internal champion.
Don't forget about those guys. Keep them close. They're going to give you valuable feedback. They're going to help you figure out if there are any blind spots in your plan, and they're going to be your cheerleaders throughout the whole process.
It's like having a team of Sherpas guiding you up the mountain.
Exactly.
You're not doing it alone.
You're not alone. And you know that this whole conversation reminds me of something we talked about earlier, about shifting from that mindset of fear to a mindset of opportunity.
Oh, yeah. It's like that saying, change is inevitable, growth is optional.
Exactly. When we can look at change as a chance to grow, a chance to learn new things, it's amazing what we can accomplish.
It's like change is happening anyway.
Yeah.
We can either get on board or get run over.
Exactly.
So for everyone listening who's maybe facing a big change at work right now, just remember, you got this.
They do.
You understand the culture, you plan strategically, you communicate openly, and you keep that positive, adaptable mindset, you're going to be just fine.
You've got all the tools.
You've got this. And don't forget, build your support system.
Yes. Find your people.
Find your people. Find your cheerleaders. We're all in this together. And on that note, thank you so much for joining us for this deep dive. Until next time, happy changing everyone.